If I'm not mistaken, a representative of Islamic Development Bank would like to speak. Please. Mike.
Thank you very much, moderator, and thank you to all of the countries who have presented this on this occasion. We and Islamic Development Bank have been working with our member countries to implement the recommendations of FATF, but we are facing some issues, which one or two I would like to highlight. Regarding the freezing of the funds, all this exercise has to materialize in some result, and most of the countries here and most of the speakers have spoken about the freezing of the funds. When the funds are frozen, the countries who are freezing the funds, they must have a full, complete and advanced, enhanced system of appeal, investigation and litigation or adjudication. Most of the developing countries are not very advanced in this system. They need help from advanced countries for this purpose. This is one thing. Second, freezing of the funds may, more than necessary focus on freezing of funds, may result in diverting the funds from the normal, regular banking channel to the informal channel. And this can be an issue of concern to the developing countries. Their economy is already fragile, and diversion of the funds from the formal channel to informal channel may further aggravate their position. So I would request the FATF and other countries to come up with a mechanism for enhancing the capabilities of the developing countries in handling this situation. There is another issue regarding the NGOs. This is a very complex situation. There are NGOs who are totally engaged in humanitarian aid. For example, giving assistance to the natural disasters or man-inflicted disasters like war and etc. But there are NGOs who are in the cover of humanitarian disaster are engaging in this type of financing. And developing countries are not developed enough to investigate properly and to differentiate between these two. In this field also, I would like to have feedback from the countries, from the expertise of this panel, as well as from FATF and United States. Thank you very much.
Well, I thank the representative of Islamic Development Bank. We have somewhat about 6 minutes left. That's why I would stop questions for the moment, and I will give the possibility for our panelists to answer practically, as I understand, a couple of questions concerning, for example, freezing and NGOs. Who would like to start sharing experience on these issues? Of course, FATF will later maybe also speak on these issues, but among our panelists, who would like? United States? Treasury? Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the questions. In particular, regarding your question on overall enhancing the capability of developing countries, I think you are exactly right on. And as my colleague said earlier today, that's why we really depend upon the four-pillar approach with it. That just as important as the pre-designation issues and the actual implementation of the sanctions is then all of the post-designation issues on fairness and transparency for it. This is also recognized in the new FATF standard recommendation 6, where the whole last section actually deals with delisting and having a process in place that individuals, if they were designated under 1267, can then appeal through the ombudsperson and the established UN processes for that, and the other individuals through the focal point. So we agree with that, and actually in the US we have a very robust system working with our Justice Department that hears a tremendous amount of reviews for people that want to be delisted. And as we explained, actually, just in the past year alone, we've had over 300 delistings. Now, a lot of those delistings actually come about because there's a change in behavior on behalf of the individuals that are publicly identified. And they actually then change their behavior such that then we can go through the process of delisting them. But the legal safeguards that we establish and keep in place are fundamental to that, of having that back end to it. And that's why as well when we spoke on both the U.S. technical assistance programs as well as what CTED is providing and CTITF, really to try and look at the multiple prongs of this, not just the implementation and the actual freeze, which is the crucial aspect of it, but the backhand in terms of the fairness and transparency, because in really having a holistic approach to then implement an effective regime.
Thank you very much, and also to quickly comment on the pertinent question raised by the Islamic Development Bank. Indeed, as voiced by also my colleague from the United States, the issue of capacity building and technical assistance is an important one to the issue of countering the financing of terrorism. Especially that a lot of mechanisms in the developing countries which are pertinent to the issue of asset freeze and also counter of money laundering and counter of terrorist financing are new. And therefore they need to have the experiences, the capacity buildings from other national and international systems or mechanisms that have more experience in that field. Another issue also that could maybe fill the legal lacunas that may exist in the system of appeals, for example. One way to fill it is to have independent laws that do regulate clearly the issue of countering terrorism in itself. This could provide maybe a more clearer legal platform that exactly tackles the issues of appeals, of asset freezing, and other issues relevant to that. So I thank you very much for your question.
I just wanted to also highlight the fact that there is, of course, a substantial amount of technical assistance activity in the field of anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing occurring as we speak, of which the FATF-style regional bodies are the clear conduits for much of that kind of assistance within regions, but of course also the CTED itself in preparing information about what is best practice and looking to put assistance together with countries who are looking for that kind of assistance. You mentioned also the question of diversion of funds to the informal channels and the damage this could have for developing economies. One thing I would make clear about this is that it highlights the need to regulate all kinds of financial transaction services. In Australia, for example, we have money, not only the financial institutions, the classical banks, but also money service businesses, hawala dealers, all regulated and all participating lawfully in the economy. The more that you can formally regulate that sector, the more hazardous for the organised criminals or the terrorists it becomes to use those informal channels. It's an undesirable channel in many respects for them if you are able effectively to regulate all kinds of understood means of transacting value over borders. So just ensuring that comprehensive regulatory framework will make the informal sector as undesirable, hopefully, as it would be for commerce. Thanks.
Well, as I